Hello again. Chase the Traveler with a new episode. So, for all you Casanovas, for all you ladies' men, I have a story to tell you. A very interesting story. Now, you know that I'm an OG. You know that I've been around the block a few times in Japan. When I first got here, things were extremely different. Things were quite good. And let me tell you, when I first got here, guys didn't have to pay for dates. Guys didn't have to pay for anything when they went out with a woman. Now, of course, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not saying that that's what people should do. I'm not saying that that's what people should aspire to. But when you're coming from a country where you couldn't get anything, then all of a sudden you're getting a lot. And on top of that, the ladies are paying for everything. You're going to be tickled. You're going to be tickled in a lot of different places. But let me tell you, when I first got to Japan, I was surprised that these Japanese ladies had a lot of money. I mean, I saved up for about 3 or 4 years just to have half of it disappear in 2 weeks when I was here because everything was so expensive. And all of a sudden, women were giving me a lot of attention, even though I didn't deserve it. And these women were willing to pay for what I couldn't afford. I mean, I would go out on dates, and all of a sudden, when it was time to pay the bill, they had my back. When I needed something, they had my back. And I wasn't the only one. I mean, guys over here, I mean, the real Casanovas. I mean, I knew this one Australian guy. He had a Rolex that he was showing me. He was like, hey, look, my girlfriend bought me this. And I was like, damn, I felt like, darn, I only got a sandwich. I mean, back in those days, foreign guys were in vogue. Foreign guys were in demand. Some people wanted the black man. Some people wanted the white man. I mean, those were your most popular types at that time. I mean, now it's different. I mean, you know, but we're definitely not as popular as we used to be. I mean, some of these guys that I knew had 3 or 4 ladies. Now, of course, I'm not saying that's something that anybody should aspire to. I'm not saying that's anything somebody should do. I'm pretty sure some Japanese guys had 4 or 5 ladies too. But I mean, these guys had 4 or 5 ladies that were paying the bills. And don't get me wrong, I don't want you to think that only foreign guys were doing this. Some of the Japanese ladies were doing it too. I mean, actually, Japanese ladies have a name for it, ashikun, which is a guy that they keep around to drive them around. They had meshikun, a guy that they had around for when they wanted to eat something and they didn't want to pay for it, so meshikun would pay for it. So, nice pair of legs. So, but again, what I'm saying is that some of these foreigners out there, they had like a girlfriend where these girls were just so impressed by them just because of the fact that they were a foreigner. They would get cars and pretty much their girlfriends would pay the note on that car for them. And again, this is something that, for me, coming from New York City, I mean, you couldn't even get a girl to buy you a lollipop, let alone buy you a car. And then this Australian guy, he had girls buying him Rolexes. And back then, it was during the bubble economy. That's what they used to call it. Bubble K's. And the Japanese ladies had some cash. They knew what they wanted. They wanted a foreign man. And they were willing to pay for that foreign man. They were willing to pay for everything. You didn't have to pay for anything. Some people got their schools paid for. Japanese language schools, when they didn't speak enough Japanese, all right, I got you. Those girls, they had your back. They would give you every single penny they had just to be with you. Nowadays, you're not going to get that anymore. That's kind of why I feel sorry for a lot of these guys coming to Japan right now. I mean, they don't know how good it was. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is something positive. I'm just saying that this is something that used to happen. And pretty much, the Japanese guys used to hate it. They were like, oh man, why is she buying him that? Why? I mean, this guy's not worth it. I mean, they didn't think that us foreigners were worth it. And you used to see on TV, I mean, it got so popular. I mean, Japanese TV would say it got so bad that they would try and catch women paying for foreign men on TV and then blow it up on TV and say, hey, look, we caught one. Look at that. Look at that guy taking money from that lady. Actually, he wasn't taking any money from that lady. That lady was just paying for him. And she kind of felt empowered because usually for centuries in Japan, it was like the other way around where the men were empowered because the men were paying for everything. So now the Japanese ladies were trying to show the men that they were just like them, that they could do it too. And the foreigners, of course, were loving it. The foreigners, of course, didn't mind that the ladies wanted to splurge on them, that the ladies wanted to spend a little money on them. Well, sometimes it was big money. I mean, again, one thing is that you have Japanese male hosts who do the same thing. And it's kind of like a profession. I mean, these foreigners were in like bona fide relationships with these ladies. So I can't say that it was a bad thing, but I know that the Japanese media definitely didn't like it. And they took their camera out to make sure that the people knew that this was going on. Hey, look, why are these ladies paying for these foreign guys? Why are they buying them lunch? Why are they buying them dinner? Why are they buying them watches? Why are they buying them cars? Why are they paying for their rent? Well, because back then, foreigners were in vogue. Like I said, as a black man, I never felt that my color did anything for me until I came to Japan and people were seeking me out just because I was black. I mean, of course, it didn't last too long, but it was good while it lasted. I mean, imagine you come to Japan, you don't have any money in your pocket, and all of a sudden a lady comes to you and says, wow, man, you're fine. But the problem with that was that a lot of times these ladies, as soon as they're with you because of who you are, because you're a foreigner, they like every other foreigner for the same reason. So therefore, there's nothing special about you. So, yes, of course, some guys did keep their women for a while, but a lot of guys didn't. And a lot of guys thought that that would last. It didn't. But I would say this was happening for a good 3, 4, 5 years, where the lady would date a foreign guy, and it was expected that she would pay for everything. And it was expected that she would have to buy him things. And after a while, guys were kind of like, you know something? my lady's going to take care of it. Now, I'm not saying that the guys didn't work, the guys didn't have any kind of bona fide relationships with the ladies. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the ladies were kind of like the men. They were kind of like, hello, taking on a man's role in regards to what to do or how to take care of a man, but not really take care of a man. They would expect that they needed to do certain things that normally they wouldn't need to do. But honestly, now, after all these years and thinking about it, it's part of Japanese culture. Because again, a lot of them do this when they go to host clubs and they're buying like $8,000 bottles of champagne for the host. So it was like the foreigner became the host. And being with the foreigner was entertaining. So they would buy you clothes. I mean, this one guy, I mean, there were a couple foreigners that I knew. These guys were dressed up real nice. They had all sorts of fancy suits. I remember the names of these suits because they were like, look, this is Jean-Paul Gaultier. It's like a French designer. One of those suits would set you back $3,000, $4,000. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, he'd come back and tell me, look, my girl bought me a Yohji Yamamoto. That's a Japanese designer. One of those suits could set you back $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Then another homeboy came, showed me like, yo, look, my girl bought me Comme des Garçons. It's a Japanese brand. Again, expensive. I mean, I was kind of upset because I was like, damn. I felt a little inferior because I wasn't getting any suits. I didn't wear suits. But, I mean, yes, back then I did have a little girlfriend that did splurge on me a little bit. I didn't get any Jean-Paul Gaultier or Comme des Garçons. Definitely didn't get a Rolex. Definitely didn't get a car. But I was looking at the guys that did, and I was like, damn. But of course, now that I'm older, of course I wouldn't accept anything like that. But back then, this was kind of like, wow. These guys were like, not really my idols, of course, but I did envy them to a certain degree. Now, of course, these things aren't done anymore. I mean, at least I haven't heard of anybody doing that anymore. I mean, I don't think that guys nowadays are actually getting suits, Rolexes, or cars, or having ladies pay for certain things for them anymore. I don't think that's happening. Maybe it is, I just don't know about it. But back then, the ladies were definitely different. The ladies were definitely in a different league. And if you got a really nice one and your intentions were good, she would spend every single dime she had to take care of you. Those days are over. I mean, right now, you go out there, I mean, you got to spend a whole lot. And it's expected. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. That's the way it's always been. But if you're old school, you think about what it used to be like. Now, again, I am not glorifying any of this. I'm not saying that any of this should be envied. But what I'm saying is that sometimes you think about how things were and how things are now, and it makes you wonder how things can change in an instant. Well, actually, it didn't change in an instant. So, I'm not sure if that was a good time to be in. I mean, no. Actually, it was a good time to be in Japan. It was a good time to be in Japan. I think at that time, Japanese women were definitely empowered. Japanese women were definitely, I would say, what would I say? I would say that at that time, Japanese ladies were, they knew what they wanted. They knew what they wanted. They knew how to treat a man. It wasn't all about, well, what are you going to do for me? It was a little bit about, I'm going to do a lot for you. And it was a thing. It was something that was in vogue. And it was something that, like I said, the Japanese media hated it. They talked about it almost every week. They vilified the men that were the recipient of these good deeds. They vilified the women that were doing that because obviously no women were doing that for them at the time. And, you know, that's one thing about, I feel that tourism has definitely changed Japan, where nowadays there is nothing special about us at all. Nobody is going to clap when you walk into a bar. It used to happen. Nobody's going to treat you like there's something special about you, even though they used to do it. And you're not a novelty anymore, even though you used to be. So of course, I kind of feel like I experienced something that a lot of people right now coming to Japan are never going to experience. Now I kind of wonder what happened to that Australian guy with the Rolex. I mean, I haven't seen him for a very, very long time. I mean, the guys that were wearing these Jean-Paul Gaultier suits and wearing the Comme des Garçons suits and the Yohji Yamamoto suits, I haven't seen those guys in a while either. I don't think they're wearing those suits anymore. The guys that had Japanese women buying them cars, well, those ladies are old now. I don't think they can afford that anymore, and I don't think they're doing that anymore. I don't see the news media talking about foreigners getting stuff from Japanese women anymore. So their efforts succeeded in clamping down on that. The foreigners that I know in Japan that have been here a while, nowadays if they're single, they're paying for drinks. They've adjusted to the new reality. Again, I'm not glorifying it. I'm not saying that it was good. I'm not saying that that's the way it should have been and it should stay that way. I'm just saying that there were times when the ladies paid for every single thing. Drinks, food, apartments, cars. And they were happy doing it. You were their guest. You were their boy toy. And they kind of enjoyed it too. So I'm not sure if it's a shame. I'm not sure if we should celebrate the fact that that's not going on anymore. But most certainly, I would say that there are a lot of old timers that would love for those days to come back. There are a lot of old timers that would appreciate appreciated the good old days where you have, and you know, one thing I've got to say, I'm going to tell you, these ladies weren't just frogs that were doing this, like, you know, ladies that nobody wanted. I'm talking about there were some fine, hot ladies. There were some foxes that were doing this. So it's not just about, okay, well, hey, this lady can't get anything and therefore that's why she's got to do that. No. I'm telling you, there were some fine ladies, some hot ladies that were taking part in this activity. And again, I would say that those days were actually pretty good. And I'm not sure that what they were doing was wrong, even though the media portrayed it as wrong and bad and awful and terrible, and these guys should never accept anything from a lady. Well, I would say to you that men and women are equal. So if men can do it, why can't women do it? Anyway, Chase the Traveler coming to you again with a new episode. It is freezing. My hands are cold. It's time for me to say goodbye. But see you in the next episode.